When we think of a builder, we usually picture someone who constructs buildings, right? But some people, well, they build something way more profound, something that lasts. They build communities. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible story of N. Ramakrishnan, a man whose personal passion literally became a cornerstone of modern Singapore's cultural fabric. So, where does this story come from? Well, it's highlighted in this book, Singapore Tamil's 200. It was put together for the nation's bicentennial to celebrate people who made a real, lasting impact. And let me tell you, among all those amazing stories, N. Ramakrishnan's just jumps right off the page. His story kicks off with his own words, and wow, they just paint such a vivid, intense picture of the world he was born into. This isn't just a line about his birthday. It's the prologue to a life that was absolutely forged in fire. Okay, so let's go right back to that chaotic beginning. How on earth does a boy born while bombs are literally falling from the sky find a sense of purpose that ends up guiding his entire life? That's the first chapter of his incredible journey. Just think about that for a second. February 1942. This is right in the thick of the Japanese occupation of Singapore. I mean, it was a time of unbelievable suffering and total uncertainty. This wasn't just some historical event happening in the background. This was the world he opened his eyes to. And the challenges, they didn't stop when the war ended. He grew up on Henderson Road. And to put it plainly, it was a rough neighborhood. This was the kind of place where it was way too easy for a young kid to get sucked into gang life, into gambling, into violence. It was a place that could just swallow you whole if you weren't careful. But right in the middle of all that difficulty, something happened. This was the moment that changed everything. He's just 15, and his teacher, a man named I. Ulaganathan, saw something in him. He didn't just teach him, he ignited this spark, this passion for the Tamil language that would become a roaring fire, giving Ramakrishnan's life a brand new, powerful direction. So with this new purpose, he didn't just pick one cause. Oh no. Instead, he started fighting on two fronts at the same time. One battle for his culture, and another for the actual physical safety of his community. This slide really breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you have this fight for the soul of his culture, making sure the Tamil language had a voice, that it mattered. And on the other side, you have a fight for the streets, protecting the kids in his neighborhood from the violence that was all around them. Two different battles, but for him, they were part of the same mission. So how does a teenager even start a fight like that? Well, let's look at his first moves. Back in high school, he sees the school magazine has articles in a bunch of languages, but not Tamil. And he doesn't just shrug it off. He fights for it, he wins, and then he writes the very first Tamil article himself. At the exact same time, seeing all the gang violence up close, he makes this serious vow. He was going to join the police force and take this problem on directly. And you know what? He was a man of his word. In 1966, he made it into the prestigious Criminal Investigations Department, the CID. He wasn't just talking about making things better anymore. He was on the front lines, playing a direct role in making his old neighborhood, and really all of Singapore, a much safer place. Now, this is a really interesting shift in his life story. After spending years fighting against the problems in his community, Ramakrishnan starts to focus on building something positive, something that would last. He goes from being a fighter to a community builder. I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows a whole lifetime of just unwavering dedication. At the same time, he's building his own family, he's building his community, he's representing Singapore on the world stage at Tamil conferences, he's organizing huge cultural events back home. And through it all, for decades, he's right there on the ground, mentoring young people and putting on festivals. This wasn't just a hobby. This was the rhythm of his life. And of course, nobody builds a community all by themselves. This quote from his close friend, A.P. Raman, is so simple but so powerful. It just shows you what their whole partnership was built on, a shared, deep love for the Tamil language. Together, these two were like cultural ambassadors, bringing artists and scholars to Singapore, enriching the whole community. It's just a beautiful example of how friendship can serve a much greater cause. But what was the philosophy, the engine that drove all this incredible work? Well, it all came back to his deep personal devotion to the ancient poet-philosopher Thiruvalluvar. And this wasn't just some academic thing. He lived it. He named his home Valluvam, put a statue of the poet right at his front door, and spent his time translating his work so more people could access its wisdom. Thiruvalluvar's principles weren't just ideas. They were his compass for everything. So, when you put it all together, what does it all mean?
Let's talk about the big picture, about the legacy he ultimately left behind for Singapore. Over the years, the community gave him a special title, Tamil Tandar. It means servant of the Tamil language. Now, this wasn't an official award he won in a ceremony. This was a name he earned through decades of selfless work. And it just perfectly sums up a life that was never about personal gain, but always about serving his culture and his community. His passion for his culture went hand in hand with a really deep gratitude for his country. For him, the moment Tamil was made an official language of Singapore, he called that a golden era. And that gratitude was so personal. He kept a photo of Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew in his room as a quiet thank you to the leader he felt had built a nation where his life's work was not just possible, but actually valued. And this last quote from his dear friend A.P. Raman, it really says it all, doesn't it? Even after he retired from the police force, the work didn't stop. Like Raman says, he kept at it right until the very end. Not for money, not for fame, but purely out of a deep, unshakable passion. N. Ramakrishnan passed away in 2014, but he left behind so much more than just memories. He left a Tamil community in Singapore that was stronger, safer, and more culturally vibrant, all because of one man's incredible, lifelong passion. And that leaves us with this really powerful thought. The story of N. Ramakrishnan proves that one person's passion, their dedication, can literally become the foundation for an entire community. And it kind of makes you look around your own world and wonder, who are the quiet builders in your community?